Capital Investment Committee meeting for June 27, 2019. Item 1 is consideration of minutes from May 23rd, 2019.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 2, presentation from the Franklin Riverwalk and Trails Committee regarding the Franklin Trails brand strategy and brand mark development.
Thank you,
See,
Mr.
we are all assembled.
We are.
Great.
We are. We have a great team up here. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, let me kind of introduce for those, because it's always fun when you do a presentation, but it's even more fun when you have colleagues from other organizations do it with you. So to my right, there's Ellie Westman Chin, who's the Executive Director of the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we also have Tori Barnhill with Friends of Franklin Parks, who is the Executive Director. We have Tom Curl, who's with us. He's a resident of Franklin. Tom sits on many committees and organizations, boards. Tom and I went through Leadership Franklin together. We were the best class ever. Just throw that out there. You can't comment. I have the mic. And
You just alienated half the room. You realize that, right?
Don't mash the button yet. Yes, we'll let it fit out. And then here's, and at the end of the table is Matt Brown. Matt is a resident of Franklin. He's also a consultant, a brand strategist with Brand Metals, who's here in our downtown Franklin, and we're so appreciative. But I also would be remiss if we didn't mention for many of those that are in the audience with us tonight or this afternoon, they are part of the Franklin River Walk and Trails Committee, and we appreciate their leadership and their time and commitment and support of all of us today. Any of them could be up here giving this presentation, but we sure do appreciate them being here. So if I may, before we get started on the presentation, I'd like to give a little bit of background that kind of sets the tone for how this committee kind of came about a little bit, that we've heard from this committee before, but why we're here today. So approximately around 4 years ago, a group of citizens and community leaders began to get together and discuss some of the topics within the city, because frankly, tomorrow we had a lot of visioning trips that were taking place. You had Chamber was doing visioning trips to other cities and communities. We also had the realtors as well as the city itself doing surveys. And one of the things that came about was connectivity or the walkability. We always scored kind of low in that area. And so it was important for, as these leaders kind of came together, or residents, and they just began to discuss what could they do to become advocates, as well as support initiatives from a public or a private sector. So about 2 years ago, the city was invited to the table. Parks, planning, engineering, administration. It wasn't a specific person. It was just about what they requested of us when we walked through the door. And I know from personal experience, they asked, what were some of the master plans? To connect some of the dots in which maybe connectivity of why something had not been inserted into our system, or what was to come. Because unless you're in this room and as an alderman or city staff, it's hard to connect when you're talking about transportation plans, Envision Franklin, Parks master plans or developments, and keep up with all of those pieces. So closely, it was, again, to really what was the progress and how they could begin to have a clear understanding. But also part of the program was the committee also needed a clear purpose of why, because it was a revolving door. There's not that this is set aside and only certain people can attend. This is really a revolving door with a lot of different organizations or residents or those that are interested. So about a year ago, Tori, Ellie, and I, we kind of pooled our resources and hired a consultant under the leadership of Friends of Franklin Parks, and began that process of looking at establishing for the committee itself what was the mission and what was the vision. From there, it was also about who was our target audiences and also what was an action plan. Because anytime you serve, whether you serve on a committee, if it's voluntarily or not, you want to do something. And that's really kind of where we are today. So in saying that, one of the things in which we did is I presented some of the parts master plan. We had 3 deficits at that time, and this was a couple of years ago. One of the 3 were we had a deficit in neighborhood parks. We had to identify land that a athletic complex would be, but we also identified that there was a need to have wayfinding signage or some type of strategic plan as far as how connectivity would take place, of showing that if you're at Pinkerton, what's the best way where you are, how is the, what are the mileage markers. And as we did that, we also began to look at a broader view of sidewalks and multi-purpose pathways that engineering was doing such a great job of doing. So in saying that, the Riverwalk Committee recognized the larger approach and looked at the overall to address the entire system. And so that's where we are today, is to kind of take you through the exercise of where we've been. And as far as what the mission is after we work with the consultant and work with the committee, the Franklin Riverwalk and Trails Committee, comprised of community and city leaders, provides strategic direction and advocacy for the creation of trails, greenways, and blueways with the purpose of improving quality of life by connecting city parks, neighborhoods, historic resources, and area attractions. And so in that was also a very clear and concise vision for the committee. And it wasn't about just one group or city parks or an individual. It was about being able to go back and spread that word with all of our organizations, friends and family, as well as our community. And the vision was connecting the Franklin community through trails and greenways and blueways to improve quality of life. That is simple, but very to the point. So I will turn this over to Tom Curl now to kind of discuss the target audiences and what was important to recognize those areas.
Green button. Thank you, Lisa. Well, for those who don't know me, my name is Tom Curl, and as Lisa said, I've been involved with a lot of different events and involved in Franklin, but the reason I'm bringing that up is my background. I'm a developer, and I also finance commercial real estate projects. So why I say that is because I'm very involved and embrace the trails of Franklin and green space, because I think it makes our overall community so much better, and it's something that'll be there for a long time, and our generations to come will look back on us and say, wow, what a foresight that this leadership had. So taking that and a segue into, there's two parts of the audience. There's who are we targeting for the trails and for this system, and that is all Franklin people, including families and teens, cyclists, tourists, pedestrians, seniors. We would think nature enthusiasts. Obviously, the business community would embrace this, pet lovers, and of course, people who come to Franklin would find, the green spaces that we've provided. But turning that around and saying, who is the audience that helped us in looking at the signage and how we came to, the design that we did? And that's also all of Franklin. That's people like myself who are not as deeply involved in the park system as Lisa and Tori are, but that have become involved in it. There's people, so you got the business community. We talk to kids. We talk to a lot of different people, and sometimes it just grew on them. Sometimes it was just wow. But I think overall, when we looked at it and said, hey, it's not just historic Franklin, it's all of Franklin. The audience that we're looking at is the entire community that we all live in. And that does include millennials. That does include, senior citizens. It does include our kids and our youth, and that they will be using the parks and the waterways and the trails just like all of us. So we incorporated that into our perspective and their thoughts and their feedback. And that's really kind of how this came together. I'm going to turn it over to Tori and a little bit of the leadership team that helped bring that communication, that information together, and helped solidify kind of the design as it moved forward.
Thank you, Tom. Oh, I was going to go there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the discovery team that was formed that helped lead the process. What was really neat is, even outside of our Riverwalk group, we decided, and Ellie was great at leading this, that we needed a discovery team from all walks of life, just a cross-section that would represent different things to this process. So we had a few meetings at CVB, and we did some exercises that talked about trails, what it meant to people, that led to a lot of the information in the deck that you have before you. We had business owners, we had residents, we had HOA Alliance presidents that represent a lot of neighborhoods. We also had someone from the Historic Zoning Commission. We wanted to know how it appealed to all different people cross-section. So we met, and we just kept whittling it down, and it came down to what's before you today. And Ellie's going to talk to you about the process of the brand strategy. She's just a genius at that, so you want her to
Well, thank
explain
you.
it.
So, I always enjoy doing discovery sessions because it's a deeper dive into why are we doing this? Why are we doing river walks and trails, and what do we need? So as you're going to see on the next slide, Lisa has it up, Tom talked through our target audience and who those are, so I won't repeat that. But what's our frame of reference? And really, we want to offer functional and inspirational trails and access point with the purpose to connecting the entire community of Franklin. And that could be everything from park to park to, downtown to Carton, or whatever those different access points are. The point of difference is we want to provide public and free system to everyone that promotes exercise, walkability, and really togetherness. So if somebody wants to walk to Harlansdale for July 4th celebrations to get with community and celebrate, then they'll have the ability to do that. And the benefit is we create a strong sense of community and we improve the quality of life. And I know from my research, when Julian called me and said, hey, would you consider coming and serving on this committee? We did research and we said, is this where the CVB belongs and should we be at the table? But 25% of users are usually visitors. Number one question at our visitor center, how can I get to Carton on my feet or on a bike? And you can't, because they like to park and then get on their feet, walk around, or they want to ride a bike. And so really there's a lot of different reasons, what we call reasons to believe, but it increases property values depending on where the trail goes in the community. We can make it educational, inspirational. We can reduce traffic if people are riding their bikes. What we heard from some families is, wow, it'd be really great if we could just ride our bike to Jim Warren Park to play ball or do whatever instead of always packing the family into the car. It promotes wellness and emotional benefits, creates revenue opportunities, and assists in recruiting companies and organizations. We've kept the chamber pretty apprised of what we're doing, and this is something that they're talking about when they're talking to companies about moving into Franklin. So from that, we said, well, what's our brand position? And I'm just going to read through this, but for Franklin residents and visitors from all walks of life, Franklin Trails is a public and free place where you can enjoy a long jog, go on a bike ride, take in nature, or simply walk from one landmark to another. By delivering tighter connectivity throughout the city, Franklin Trails is driven to offer a functional and inspirational way to bring Franklin together, leading to an even stronger sense of community and improved quality of life amongst the people who live and visit here. So what we did, we did a brand discovery whenever we did our refresh at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and this was an interesting exercise to do brand tonality. What do we want to be and what do we don't want to be? And as you can see here, what the committee came up with was we want to be dependable, inviting, forward-thinking, trustworthy, and accommodating. We don't want to be exclusive or closed-minded or restrictive or elitist or judgmental. We want the trails to be open for everybody who would like to come out and use them. So from this information, it was time for us to have a discussion about what's the brand mark. So whenever we get all the trails up, what's the mark that they're going to see as they ride through town or walk through town and hit different trails all over Franklin. And we reached out to Matt and said, hey, would you want to jump on board and help us with these next steps? And thankfully for us, he said yes. So thank you, Matt. But I'm going to turn it over to you now to talk through the brand mark.
Well, we were thrilled to do it. Not only do we just love Franklin, we for the most part do health, wellness, and lifestyle brands. So this fit right into sort of our mission. I'm also a resident of Chestnut Bend, and I like to think as a group, our neighborhood embraces the value of the trail system. And I personally just like to do my commute to my office on Main Street in Chestnut Bend, and I send these 3 pictures all the time of me walking down the trail. I think they're tired of the selfies, but really do enjoy the system. So this was a unique challenge for us, quite honestly, because this brand mark, to Tom's point, it needed to touch just about every audience, from downtown to Cool Springs to millennials to seniors and everybody in between. But it also needed to communicate the breadth and depth of the trail system. We're not just talking about a hiking trail in the mountains or a mountain biking trail or even just a canoe waterway. We're talking about sidewalks through neighborhoods and mountain biking trails and everything in between. So the logo needed to be able to be used, the brand mark needed to be able to be used, whether it was on a stone facade at the front of somebody's neighborhood or sitting out in the middle of a wooded area getting ready to hit a trailhead. In addition to that, it needed to work as a system. So we needed to have a mark that was bright and colorful and identifiable and uniquely ownable that you could use on any kind of trail, but you would always know that you were part of the Franklin Trail system. So whether you were on a sidewalk or on a trail or in a kayak, you knew that you were part of the same broad, unique system that Franklin's built. So with that, we did quite a bit of discovery, did a few different options, but the one that we're going to present to you today is this one right here. So in this logo, I'm going to stand if you don't mind, so I can show some boards too. Abstract for sure, maybe not what you might see typically in downtown Franklin, but certainly if you think about the Franklin as a whole, commitment to culture and arts, and also just being able to express sort of the breadth and depth. The colored paths represent greenways and blueways of a connected system. The brand mark, it doesn't skew one way or the other, so it doesn't necessarily communicate hiking or biking or walking or riding. It's meant to sort of give the feeling that this trail system has a lot of different options available. Brightly colored, so we picture this whether you're in a shaded tree-lined walkway or whether you're on the water, you will always be able to reference this bright colored brand mark along the way. If I'm in a neighborhood like my own Chestnut Bend, this is not a logo that's necessarily going to fight against my own brand as a neighborhood. So Chestnut Bend or any other neighborhood could have this mark accompany their neighborhood and not feel like it's suggesting one thing or the other, or maybe too different or too incongruent with the values of that neighborhood. Lastly, we purposely didn't do any kind of imagery. Again, didn't want to reinforce any one type of activity. If you're just a family that wants to walk down with a stroller, or you want to actually cycle or run, we're not pigeonholing the trails into defining it as one certain thing. And then lastly, we wanted to certainly align the colors to the personality traits. So greens and blues actually do express things like dependability, trustworthiness, and forward thinking. So beyond just that one look, though, like I said, we have to work it as a system. So what we've done is we've actually created a brand mark that, when pulled out from the actual Franklin Trails, actually the text, the mark itself becomes a brand mark that can be used as a wayfinder along trails with the mileage marker for whether it's a blue way or a waterway or a greenway. In addition, we've actually created the logo to be used. One of the requests, actually sitting in the room even, was to, how could we envision that brand mark to be used in bronze, for example, on a neighborhood stacked stone column. And so we've created a bronze view that would allow the different levels of the colors to be at different layers. So a really nice, elegant view of what that logo could look like in a bronze. And then, of course, if it was just on a metal signpost at the trailhead of a trail. And then finally, just extending the system even further, we didn't want to suggest to Chestnut Bend or to Pinkerton Park or to Eastern Flank Battlefield that those names needed to change in terms of those trails. We thought that was especially important when you think about neighborhoods. You know, Chestnut Bend understands that it's part of a trail system, but there's a lot of ownership to those trails that go through the neighborhood. And so we wanted to give each neighborhood or each location of plants to have their own equity of their name, but yet be able to adopt the mark. And so and further identify what that trail system was. So we've created more of a portfolio of brand marks for the entire trail system. You can imagine any numbers of these that could exist as broad as the trail system as we have here in Franklin, thankfully. So with that, I think that's all the looks of the system.
Thank you, Matt. So, questions, kind of next steps before maybe we dive into is we understand that most likely we'll need to bring this to the whole board. So we're not asking for any type of approval or consideration today, but we are looking for feedback in any suggestions that you may have. And then from there, from the city's process, really, in order to begin to start this process is, we do believe we need to develop a brand guideline book so that we would know exactly the size, the wayfinding signage, what it will look like on the trail system. So if we incorporate it into the existing trails that we have today, we need to know what that looks like and where should we use it. So we do believe we can do a lot of those things internally with some staff, but at the same time, we are looking today more for your feedback on the brand and the logo and the looks, or any suggestions you may have.
Alderman? You got nothing?
I do, but I'll let somebody else go first. Go first. Well, I have had the privilege to sit in on several of these meetings. There's been some different iterations of the logo. I know, bless your sweetheart, he's nodding.
He knows better than anybody.
Well, no, and it's funny because I think we do so many things so well, but we really struggle with our identity. We struggle with naming things. We struggle with, I mean, I don't even remember what the Horizon image was. I don't know if it was for this project or something else, but you said the word correctly. Abstract is exactly how this feels to me. I just, and it's funny, so I'm sitting in here, I'm going to say what I feel, but then I'm also open because I know that there's a lot of people who've put a lot of hard work into this. But I also know that we have to own it. At the end of the day, they're not going to go, oh, Matt, remember that logo you did years ago? You know, maybe. I hope for you. I'll give you the credit. I think as a community, we really, a lot of what we set our hat on is historical. But at the same time, I kind of chuckled inside when you said we're a community of culture and arts. And I'm like, well, we're trying to be there. Yeah. I think about, years ago when Dan Klatt redid the city logo, which had been the same forever. And even if you look at that, it's updated, but it's still pretty traditional. And I'm not saying we always have to be stuck in tradition. I don't like the logo. I'm sorry. I am one of 8, so good luck to you. It doesn't feel like Franklin to me. I love the positioning that you've done and the opportunities after that. I love the branding for the individual neighborhoods. I love the opportunity to change it into other color schemes. But personally, as somebody who's looked at a lot of logos in her life in my old business, I would say next. That doesn't mean you didn't work your hardest and you don't have great, but it's art, it's subjective. And it doesn't blow my skirt up. So that's what I didn't want to say out of the gate.
Ms. Martin, you got something?
This is fine. I've seen this before, and it's been explained to me, and you did a good job of explaining. It's kind of like the bicycle rack down here at Harper Square. It's not a rocking chair on a front porch. That's kind of where a lot of us are. But it's okay. It's really okay. And it all makes sense the way you explained it. We've got to have something. So, because there's a reason for it and you can identify the reasons, it's really fine with me. Now, you lost me on the last page, right there. I don't really understand that. I don't understand the flank and the bend and the farm and the state and the park and all that. I don't understand what that's all about.
Look at it on your screen and see
I'm
the
looking
other
at it.
words.
I'm looking at it. I still don't understand it.
Yes, ma'am. The reason we felt like we needed a broader portfolio and sort of, if you think, sort of like almost sub-brands, if you will, but each location has their own identity. Where am I starting at the trailhead? So I might be starting at Harlansdale Park, or and eventually cross a bridge over into Chestnut Bend, and then eventually get down into downtown. Along the trail, there are going to be different locations. There's different parts of the trail system that are in these locations. So instead of just renaming everything Franklin Trails along the way, what identifies it as Franklin Trails is the mark itself, the icon, but the park, Harlinsdale Farm, is still Harlinsdale Farm. If I then cross over to Chestnut Bend, which is a neighborhood, Chestnut Bend still owns its identity as Chestnut Bend, but it's actually, look at it as a, what are we saying? It's almost like a, what's the word we were using? Like a seal of approval, like you're part of the trail system. So Chestnut Bend's adoption of this on their trail system as their trailhead is almost like we're a certified Franklin Trail by being on this trail system, Chestnut Bend.
Does that mean you're gonna use those words?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, what about all the rest of the places in town, like downtown? What are you gonna,
Probably something like the historic district, because it'll serve two purposes. One, you'll be embraced by those communities, but you'll also be able to know where you are. So if
Think
you,
of it as like an exit, Margaret. Like, if you want to tell, okay, so if I put my boat in, which I don't have a boat, but my kids do, at one point of the river, you want to be able to tell somebody where to pick you up.
Yes.
Because you're not going to go back to where you started. So it's that placemaker.
Okay.
So it's like, I'm on the trail, Bob, I can't walk anymore. I've gotten as far as Aspen Grove. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like a placemaker. But it also
Well-
identifies the area in which you're in by paying homage to that specific area.
all right, I just didn't understand about the words. The words will actually be under the logo at that point. Okay.
You done? I like it. You know, your choices are something abstract or the same tired hiker guy with the stick that's everywhere. I mean, maybe. I've said many times over 22 years, don't ask me to pick art, you'll be sorry. But I like it. And whether we go with that image or not, I like the image, but I do like the designation of areas as part of the whole. It unifies things that were built separately and are being integrated now. So if we're physically integrating them, I think we should brand integrate them simultaneously. Beyond that, I would recommend that we develop an app. One you could look at, you probably know what you want out of it, but one you could look at would be the Biltmore Estate app. It's a huge 8,000 acre estate, and it GPS locates you on the trails that are there and shows you where the amenities are and all that stuff. And I know how much some of our aldermen like to monetize these things. So you could actually like sell location services on it to, for example, I'll just pick one. Sonic is right at one of the, right off of one of the trails. So if you were on the trail and you pulled up your app, you would know that you were right there at Sonic, or whoever else purchased their way onto the app. So you could, maybe offset some of the cost of this, or, generate a little revenue or whatever, kick it back to the Friends of Franklin Parks or whatever we do. But I like the image because I think, and it's probably not an image that survives 3 decades. I don't know, but we got to pick something, and I don't want the hiker guy that's on. I just spent the weekend in Asheville, and it's that little hiker guy is everywhere. It's tired, and it's anywhere you. I mean, we always talk about not being anywhere USA. Well, the little hiker guy with the staff is hike anywhere guy. So I would say I like it, but I'm just one of 8.
I think the other thing too that's hard for me, we went on a trip, I don't know, Swamp Rabbit Trail. Mary, where were we? Yeah, I mean, I think we're not just one thing. We're not just Chip. We're not just Harlinsdale. And I think that makes it hard. But I mean, how cool would it be to have something that's like that? Because then you can, it's harder because we are so many different things. I wish we could have a swamp rabbit of some sort. We don't have one, but that's what I remember. How that's just such a catchy name, and it was really easy to graphically display. But anyway,
Well, that kind of suggests why an abstract image is necessary, because there's trails at Fieldstone Farms that are at the edge of the city limits and got nothing whatsoever to do with the historic icon of Franklin, other than happenstancing to be in the city that's the logo for. So same's true with a lot of those other things, and things we haven't even built yet, so. Anything else we need to do, or
I
no?
like the colors very much.
I'd like to make a comment, if I could.
I like the colors.
Mayor Moore?
Yeah, if I could just have a quick comment here. I think my first anxiety whenever I saw it was he was talking about putting on stone markers and so on. And after Matt started talking about bronze and various depths or dimensions on it, and then I can actually see it here, I said, I think I like that. And particularly after I see the so many ways that you can indicate where you're at. I think it's time that we have something that's a little abstract. I'm not a great abstract art lover, but I think this portrays blue ways, green ways, trails, whatever we're gonna have. So congratulations, I think, to the committee that's worked so hard.
Just a word of thanks to this group. I mean, to have people with this kind of talent and passion, both at the table and in the audience, we're really fortunate to have that, and keep it up and keep working on it, and we'll keep using your expertise, that's for sure. So thank you.
Next item. Item three, request for sanitary sewer availability denial, Tullis Road, 1103. This is one that they want us to deny so they can renovate their septic or get permission from the county?
Yes.
All right, great. Only too happy to help, okay. Move to approve the denial, right? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
all right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Oh, sounds like sketchiness out there. Item 4, consideration of a request for sewer availability for 116 Gilbert Drive.
So this is part of the Henpeck Lane Sewer Project. There's a tap that's already been made for them. So this is just going through the motions and approving their availability.
So they would connect.
They would connect, yeah.
Connect to the system.
We've made a tap for them off of the sewer in the plans that we've created. So this is just their connection from their house to the service.
We've given them the tap, but they pay for the connection.
Yes, they still need to pay the impact fees and all that, and bring the service from their house to the tap. Have a plumber do that.
Okay. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Item 5, water and sanitary sewer project status.
So I'll just, I know we want to go quick. I'll just give an update on the wastewater plant. So we are moving forward. It actually looks like a construction project with lots of little ants out there now, moving along. We've excavated the equalization basin, so getting ready to pour the rock anchors and the foundation for that fairly soon.
Okay. Is there anyone besides Linnea that was here when Eddie used to come in and show us? No, Eddie, former director, Eddie Woodard, when we built the last wastewater treatment plant, he took about 10 minutes out of every committee meeting and had full-color slides of the work in process, and it was quite impressive. I'm not suggesting you do that, but.
I'm glad you said that because it looked like you
No, I'm not. I don't need to see the
I mean, I
photos.
can.
No,
I would
I'm
love
not
to.
asking for that. Just
We're taking
reminiscing.
pictures, but yeah.
I
Just
can-
reminiscing. Yeah, we are taking a lot of pictures for the sake of, or litigation.
We have 4 full-time inspectors out there. So 2 senior RPRs, our resident project engineers, and then 2 junior ones as well. And then we also have a firm that we've contracted with, Monte Vista, who is they go out to the project every 2 weeks and they take pictures at the same exact spot of work that's happened, so we can see what conduit looks like in walls. We can see, if there's any discrepancies in
There's
concrete.
some stuff you won't
trenches.
ever see again.
Right, and it'll help us, as we maintain the plan. So we have a database of those happening. When the project gets finished, that'll be turned over to us.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else we need to do under number 5? Great. Number 6, capital project status report.
Jonathan, come on up. Thank you.
Couple of projects I'll hit on real quick. West Haven Boulevard traffic signal, we reviewed the plans last week. We are scheduling a coordination meeting out in the field with the utilities in West Haven to make sure they're comfortable with what we're proposing. And once we do that, we should be ready to bid based on any kind of comments they have back.
Do you have a date for that?
Right now, we're planning on the construction plans being done the end of next month and hopefully bidding in early August.
Good Lord.
The McEwen Drive roundabout modifications, we actually issued a notice to proceed on June 18th, so that work is underway. Right now, they've pretty much just done surveying, staking, and layout, and signage is what they've started working on out there. Intersection improvements at Mallory Lane and Liberty Pike, we've been working with a consultant to bring a scope of services forward. Hopefully, we'll see that, probably not next month, but in August, we'll see that. So that work will start design-wise.
And not our project, but the Mac Hatcher extension, you can really see that path taking shape as they're working away and seem to
Yes.
be making pretty good progress.
And on that, and I sent you an
Yeah.
email about this earlier. First, they closed Rebel Circle, and now they steamroll up and down Rebel Meadows residential streets in big giant dump trucks. Unless there's absolutely no other way for them to access what they're doing, we need them to not do that. Because they have total control over a way in. They blocked it, and now they're using alternate routes through a residential neighborhood in construction trucks. They just, maybe they should have a construction entrance only sign and use the road that they blocked for their access.
We've gone back and forth with the contractor on that very issue. They've actually included signals where the old four-way signal used to be for the residents right across from where Mac Hatcher ended at Hillsborough Road. They've actually added those signal heads back, so they've actually got direct access to the signal through that closed work site.
Do
So
So we will encourage them to
Yes.
use that.
Well, I'm prepared to
site
pass
for
an
sure.
ordinance that'll allow our
Yeah.
cops to ticket them.
If that's something you would want to do, we'll be
No,
glad to
okay,
draft
well,
that.
let me be clear. I want you to tell them that that's gonna happen next month if they keep doing it.
Okay.
And then
We'll
we'll
be
go
glad
out
to.
and we'll write tickets.
That does not need to go back and forth. There's no, should.
Yeah, there's
not-
nothing to discuss. They took, without telling us, they shut down a road, and now they use another road that they don't need to use. So there's nothing to discuss. They're not gonna do it. I will absolutely bring an ordinance to this body. No construction traffic,
We'll
period.
communicate to them. So, yeah,
Not gonna
Yeah.
ask the people at Rebel Meadows to
Right.
suffer that.
right.
And the last one I'll mention is the tennis courts at Jim Warren Park. If you've been out there, of course, the old tennis courts are gone. We're starting to actually see something take shape out there. It's still under stone right now, but they've got the perimeter concrete banding in place and some of the fence posts up. So we're still working hot and heavy on that. And I'll take any additional questions.
I would like to know when you set that meeting up about that traffic signal. I'd like to know the date of that meeting.
Sure,
I'd like to come to the meeting.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Miss Martin loves her some bridges and traffic signals. Anything else?
You mean about the whole thing or just that?
Projects.
Whatever.
Yeah, I do have something else. All right, the block between Sixth and Seventh Avenue that we've discussed before with Rob Ann Ligon. I've been on the phone with her this morning. She says she's about to lose her tenants with that traffic.
You're talking about
that-
the parking.
Yes, they thought that that was going to be taken care of. Well, I told her that I've already checked about the Seventh Avenue. They're going to redo all of Seventh Avenue. They're going to scarify, they're going to repave, and they're going to stripe. But that didn't address the 2-hour parking between 6th and 7th on West Main and around 6th Avenue. Now, can we do something about that immediately?
You can modify your direction about parking.
No,
You can
yeah.
change the parking time limit.
how do we do that?
You
By ordinance.
take that action.
You start by
Right this
telling me I
minute?
was right.
Hey, I voted none.
Okay. All right. Whatever the first step is, I'm taking it right now. Whatever
You're
that is.
requesting that we put an ordinance
I
on
am.
modifying the time
I
limit.
am.
That's what we need.
Today.
That's what we need.
Okay.
Well, you all need to vote on it. We need to bring it through the process, but.
All right, I move.
No, you
That's
don't
not-
need
you
to make
can't move
motions.
for a non-agenda
You've,
item,
you've
but
told us to
they're
do
clear.
something, we'll do it. We'll bring it forward to you.
You'll see
But you
that in
don't,
August.
yeah, we'll bring it forward to you.
Okay, because I'm calling her tonight. She wants an answer tonight. And I have spoken with Lisa about the splash pad at Bicentennial Park. We talked about, and she's going to talk to the Vortex company about putting that in. We can't do it at Bicentennial, but she's going to talk to them about the new park when we get ready to do that. We've talked about that in the plans.
Part of the
for
Southeast Park,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So that, I think that's all that I wanted to talk about. Oh, and Franklin Road. You want to tell us about Franklin Road?
Franklin Road, we're very close finalizing the plans. Our right-of-way agent is back acquiring property and he's actually planning on making several offers next week, kind of during some of the downtime he's got. We went through a little bit of a downtime when we were revising our easement documents. The Register of Deeds had some issues with some of our easement documents and right-of-way descriptions, so we've changed those to suit her and make those more appropriate, so we're gonna finish that up.
And we've got, what, 10 properties
10 or 12, I
to,
believe.
to still acquire? And once we're set with those, we'll be able to bid.
Okay, well, some of the people that were so opposed to this and wanted everything changed have moved, so.
My dad used to tell me if I didn't like the rules, I could vote with my feet.
That's all I wanted.
That's it? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
To adjourn.
Yes, done. Thank you for
Second.
coming.
Thank you.